35 inches of snow is possible in some locations this weekend, and the folks in those same locations were listening to tornado sirens less than 72 hours ago because what is building right now is one of the nastiest weather pattern flips this country has seen all year, and it is coming for nearly every state east of the Rockies over the next 6 days. Here's the number that ought to stop you cold. That 50-mile gap between the warm side and the cold side of Sunday's storm system is going to feel like a 50-degree temperature difference, and that razor-sharp dividing line is not just sitting over Chicago. It is running all the way from Texas up through Ohio, which means every single city in the Midwest has their own version of that boundary sitting right next door to them on Sunday afternoon. And here's the one forecast detail that determines whether Sunday becomes a bad storm day or a full-blown tornado outbreak if Sunday's dew points come in just 4 to 5 degrees higher than the models are currently showing. The Storm Prediction Center upgrades this immediately one number. 4 degrees is the difference between a squall line and a tornado outbreak, and I am going to tell you exactly when we will know which one it is and what to do the moment the models shift. So the question you need answered before Sunday morning is not how much snow is coming, it is whether your neck of the woods is sitting on the warm side or the cold side of that boundary, because those two sides of the same storm system are living in completely different weather realities this weekend, and the boundary between them is going to move. And figuring out which side you end up on is what this entire forecast comes down to. Now let me lay out the whole picture before we dig in, because what is coming is not one storm, it is 3 weather events stacked back to back. Storm 1 hits Thursday night through Friday and brings 6 to 12 inches of snow across the Great Lakes, and the Northeast Storm 2 arrives Sunday through Monday and is shaping up to be one of the biggest March snowstorms in decades, and sandwiched right between those two is a severe weather event Sunday afternoon that could stretch from East Texas all the way to the Ohio Valley. Storm 1 is already on the doorstep, and I want to be straight with you, this is not the headliner this weekend. But it would be the biggest storm of the winter in a lot of years. Blizzard warnings are already posted for northeastern Minnesota. As of this morning, 6 to 12 inches across the Great Lakes, a foot plus in localized areas of northern Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula, and by late Friday, light to moderate snow is going to be working through New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and into northern New England. Now, here's the kicker about Storm 1 that most folks are going to miss the moment it wraps up Friday afternoon. You do not get a break. Storm 2 is already organizing out over Montana and the Dakotas, and it starts arriving Saturday night. You have got a rough 24-hour window on Saturday to clear your driveway, top off the generator, and get your supplies squared away. Do that Saturday, not Sunday morning, because Sunday morning this whole thing kicks back into gear and it hits harder the second time around. I want to tell you about a family I've been thinking about all week. They live in central Illinois. They check the forecast Thursday morning and it says 55 degrees and rain Sunday, and they figure the storm talk is overblown, so they do not make a plan. They do not move the car. They do not charge the backup battery. And then 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon, the squall line comes through and the sirens go off. That family is real. And there are tens of thousands of them in the threat zone right now. And the goal of this forecast is to make sure none of them get caught flat-footed. So let's talk about Sunday's severe weather side, because this is where the forecast gets genuinely uncertain in a way you need to understand. The Storm Prediction Center right now has a slight risk from East Texas to central Illinois, but here is what gets me. The forecasters watching this setup are using the phrase "not ruling out a tornado outbreak" in the same sentence as the current slight risk, and I have been watching these outlooks for a long time, and that kind of language attached to a slight risk is not something you hear every day. The Sunday severe weather corridor runs from East Texas outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, northeast through Shreveport, Little Rock, western Tennessee, and up into southern Illinois and Indiana. Straight-line damaging winds are the primary threat, and I reckon most of the squall line activity will be a wind event, but embedded tornadoes inside that line are absolutely on the table. And if discrete supercells fire ahead of the main line in the afternoon, the tornado threat goes up fast before the squall line even reaches you. Here's what makes Sunday different from your run-of-the-mill squall line day. The same trough pushing all that snow down into Minnesota is producing 100-plus knot, winds up at mid and upper levels of the atmosphere directly over the severe weather corridor. Now follow me on this. When you combine that kind of wind energy aloft with surface dew points in the mid to upper 50s and low 60s, you get a squall line capable of producing hurricane-equivalent straight-line gusts at the surface 60, 70, even 80 miles per hour. And that can happen from a line storm with no individual tornado anywhere near you. Don't miss what comes next, because this is the part of Sunday's forecast that national coverage is going to underreport. The area I am most concerned about is not East Texas. It is the zone where the squall line runs into the warm front pushing north across central Illinois and Indiana, that triple point, where the front and the dry line and the squall line all intersect. is historically where the most violent tornadoes on linear storm days come from, and right now that triple point is sitting over one of the most densely populated corridors in the entire Midwest. And then Monday here is the thing nobody is talking about yet, a separate and possibly more dangerous severe weather window is opening Monday in the mid-Atlantic and upper southeast dew points, climbing into the 60s across southeast Virginia and eastern North Carolina on Monday morning, with that same 100-plus knot jet stream now sitting directly overhead. The Storm Prediction Center already has a slight risk posted for Monday from the D.C. corridor south through North Carolina, and this one has the ingredients for discrete supercells, not just a squall line. I pulled up the SPC discussion this morning, and the language for Monday's mid-Atlantic window genuinely surprised me. They are flagging the potential for a few strong tornadoes from discrete supercells in southeast Virginia and eastern North Carolina Monday afternoon. And the reason that stands out is the Monday event is an entirely different storm mode than Sunday. Supercells in daylight with good visibility are the kind of storms that get chased and documented, but they are also the kind of storms that can produce long-track tornadoes in areas that are not expecting them. Now, before we get into the snow numbers, drop your city in the comments right now if you are in East Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, or the Ohio Valley for Sunday, or in Virginia, North Carolina, or the D.C. corridor for Monday. Tell us your biggest concern heading into this weekend, and if you are up in Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, or northern Michigan, we especially want to know your Storm 1 totals once Friday wraps up, because those real-time ground reports go straight into tomorrow's update and help us track Storm 2's track in real time. All right, we are at the 3:30 mark, and here is the city-by-city snow breakdown. Storm 2 is the headliner, arriving Saturday night, intensifying Sunday, and still cranking Monday morning. And I want to be straight with you about the numbers. The National Weather Service blend of models, which is typically the most conservative product they put out, is showing totals that are genuinely historic for March. And if you are in Wisconsin or the Upper Peninsula right now, what you are about to read is not a forecast range, it is a warning. Wisconsin, Milwaukee looking at 8 to 12 inches from Storm 2 alone. Green Bay and Appleton in the 6 to 12 inch range. Madison at 4 to 8 inches. Northern Wisconsin, Wausau, Rhinelander, and Eau Claire over a foot. And then here is the number that makes this storm historic in extreme northern Wisconsin and into the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The National Weather Service models are showing the possibility of 1 to 3 feet of snow with snowfall, rates of 4 to 5 inches per hour at the storm's peak Saturday night into Sunday morning. That is a foot of snow in 3 hours in some spots. Michigan, the Upper Peninsula is fixing to get hammered. Marquette, Iron Mountain, Ironwood, and Houghton are all inside the zone where a foot of snow is the floor. Not the ceiling on and off blizzard conditions are possible across the UP. With winter storm warnings already in effect for lower Michigan, Detroit picks up a few to several inches. Grand Rapids at 4 to 8 inches. And here is the detail worth watching for: Chicago and Milwaukee as the low pressure deepens over the state Sunday night and into Monday. The heaviest snow band actually climbs southward, which means your totals go up as the storm matures, not down. Northeast Storm 1 brings 3 to 6 inches to the Catskills, Adirondacks, and Green Mountains today and Friday. Vermont and New Hampshire looking at 4 to 8 inches, and Storm 2 delivers another heavy snow round through Monday for upstate New York and Maine. But here's the wild card. Most folks are not expecting 70 degrees this morning in New York City and Boston, and forecasters are not ruling out a snowburst by Thursday afternoon on the I-95 corridor as that cold air slams, and same story in Richmond, Virginia, and the Tri-Cities area of Tennessee. Lord have mercy. That is a heck of a weather day for anybody caught outside. So here's the deal with the Arctic blast, because this part of the forecast is the one most people are not fully reckoning with. The cold front tied to Storm 2 is going to be one of the most dramatic air mass changes since January. Sunday afternoon, Chicago feels like 58 to 60 degrees. Sunday night, the temperatures are already dropping through the 30s. Monday morning, Chicago feels like single digits, and Dallas, which was running 80 degrees on Tuesday, wakes up Monday morning with feels like temperatures in the 20s. That is a 50 to 60 degree drop in feels like temperature in about 36 hours. Minneapolis is going to feel like minus 20 degrees Monday morning. Des Moines at minus 15 feels like actual air temperatures in the Twin Cities close to zero or below by Tuesday morning. And here's what I want to make clear. This Arctic air is not staying up north and minding its own business. It is driving south all the way to the Gulf Coast and east to Florida. By the middle of next week, cities that were at 85 degrees over the weekend are going to be struggling to reach 50 by Wednesday. And that full footprint of cold is coming whether you live in Minnesota or Georgia. Now, here's something worth your attention that I have not seen a single national outlet talking about yet. What happens after the Arctic blast? Because that temperature reversal from near zero back to record-breaking warmth in just 5 to 7 days is actually the most dangerous part of the entire late March pattern. Rapid temperature swings of 40 to 60 degrees in under a week do not just cause weather whiplash. They produce the most volatile, severe weather setups of the whole spring season, and if the models verify on the week of March 23rd through 28th, that conversation is going to be urgent. Don't miss the next section. This is the hour-by-hour Sunday breakdown, and it is the piece that tells you exactly when to act Sunday morning. 6 to 9 a.m., Central deceptively quiet across most of the threat zone the cap is holding. Skies may even look decent. Storm 2 snow is already falling in the Dakotas and keeping the cold air contrast razor sharp to the north. And this is the window to get your shelter plan confirmed and your NOAA weather radio plugged in, while it still looks like nothing is happening. Sunday 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Central first isolated storm cells start firing in East Texas and Louisiana as Gulf moisture loads the atmosphere, and this is the window that catches people off guard every single time the sky still looks manageable. There is no squall line yet, and people reckon they have more time than they do, but a single discrete supercell in this environment can drop a tornado before the main line even forms if your county issues a tornado warning between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Sunday. Your shelter needs to be ready to use in under 2 minutes, not still being planned. Sunday 2 to 5 p.m. Central, and this is where it gets real. The squall line is forming and racing northeast Shreveport, Little Rock, Memphis, and the Mississippi Delta corridor are directly in the crosshairs. Straight line wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour are possible at the surface, and I want you to understand what 70 miles per hour straight line winds do to a neighborhood. They flip trampolines 3 houses over, they put tree limbs through windshields, and they knock out power for tens of thousands of people in under an hour. Embedded tornadoes inside this line are absolutely possible on top of all that. Sunday 5 to 9 p.m. Central here is the picture that I keep coming back to. Tornado warnings possible in southern Indiana at 6 p.m. Sunday, while heavy snow is already falling 100 miles to the north in Iowa at the very same hour. That is not a figure of speech. That is the actual forecast the line is pushing through western Tennessee, western Kentucky, and southern Illinois. While Storm 2's snow is already cranking on the backside over Missouri and Iowa, it is one of the sharpest weather contrasts the Midwest sees in any given year, and it is all happening simultaneously. Sunday 9 p.m. to midnight Central, and I am going to say what needs to be said here. The storm does not care that it is bedtime. The squall line is hitting Cincinnati, Louisville, and Nashville in the dark. It is moving fast, and it is carrying embedded tornadoes, a fast-moving line with 70 miles per hour. Winds arriving at midnight is the scenario that produces the highest fatality numbers in severe weather history, bar none. NOAA weather radio plugged in with fresh batteries, county level alerts on loud, and your shelter plan confirmed before Sunday evening, not during it, not after the first warning, before. Now here's the detail that hits hardest without making the biggest headlines. So the ice storm corridor, a thin band of freezing rain, is setting up just south of the heaviest snow across lower Michigan and northern Indiana Sunday night. If you are north of Chicago, you get snow, but if you are in central Indiana or lower Michigan, you could get the worst combination ice on roads, already wet from Sunday's rain. Then snow on top. Power outages in this corridor could be significant, and roads genuinely treacherous Monday morning before the salt trucks get ahead of it. Here's the 6-day checklist by where you live. Snowbelt from Minnesota through Michigan supplies squared away today. Use every hour of Saturday's recovery window between storms. Sunday severe weather corridor from East Texas through the Ohio Valley shelter plan confirmed now. NOAA radio on before Sunday morning. Vehicles undercover. Saturday Arctic blast zone from Midwest through Mid-Atlantic. Do not write off that -20 wind chill frostbite on exposed skin in 30 minutes. Pipe freeze risk when temps stay below zero for 12 plus hours. And I keep thinking about a few different folks this week. The driver in lower Michigan who's going to head out Monday morning with no idea the ice storm came through overnight. The farmer in northern Arkansas who figures late March means winter is over. So he does not bother moving his equipment, and the family who checks the forecast Thursday morning sees Sunday showing 55 degrees and rain and decides the storm talk is overblown. Transition zones are exactly where the storm is going to surprise people. And the folks in those zones are the ones we are most worried about. Here's the big picture in one frame. A single massive trough is digging into the center of the country, and it is spinning up a 6-day weather machine. It produces a blizzard in Minnesota, a tornado outbreak in Texas, hurricane-equivalent winds over Lake Michigan, a rain to snow whiplash in Virginia and New York City, and a -20 Arctic outbreak across the Midwest. And then, like it had a full night's rest, that same pattern turns around and builds record-breaking warmth again by next Friday, all of that. From one weather system touching all 48 contiguous states in some meaningful way. Community check-in if you are in Wisconsin, the Upper Peninsula, or northern Michigan. We want your Storm 1 snow totals the moment Friday wraps up. And here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Is your community actually ready for a second round of heavy snow starting Saturday night with only a 24-hour gap between storms? Because based on how back-to-back March storms have played out historically, that 24-hour window is exactly when folks let their guard down, and Storm 2 is counting on that. Before we close, don't be scared, be prepared, and here's what prepared looks like in plain terms if the models shift tonight and Sunday's dew points come in higher. This forecast upgrades to tornado outbreak level before sunrise tomorrow, which is exactly why turning notifications on before you go to sleep tonight matters more than it usually does, because the update that answers the 4-degree question is coming overnight, and the people who see it first are the ones with the most time to act on it. Here's what is coming in tomorrow's video. By morning, we are going to have high-resolution, short-range model data for Sunday, and it is going to answer the one question this entire forecast hinges on. Do Sunday's dew points come in at the current numbers or 4 to 5 degrees higher? Because that single difference determines whether Sunday is a squall line day or a tornado outbreak day, and if the models shift overnight. Tomorrow's video is a completely different and more urgent conversation. Turn those notifications on. Get your plan together tonight, and we will see you first thing in the morning